Chapter 3 Haunted? After a beautiful moonlight ride in the newly discovered boat, the four Allens walked leisurely up the path to the house again. All of them were tired from the exhausting pleasure of so many new things at once. Even Marjorie admitted to the others that she was ready to drop. Penny announced that she didn't feel the least bit like hunting up bedding and making beds at that hour. If we hadn't been so silly, she said, and so crazy about everything, we would have gotten our things moved in from the trailer and settled when we first arrived. Well, I know one thing, Philip answered firmly. I'm not going to unpack a single thing tonight. I must admit, though, that we haven't been as foresighted as we usually are. Listen to him, will you? Put in Jimmy. Let's sleep in the trailer tonight and be done with it. Marjorie laughed at this idea and said, With that big house here? Camp out again? Well, we're used to it, said Penny, and all we'll have to do is crawl in. She admitted to herself, however, that it was a rather strange thing to do. When you think about it, Marjorie said slowly, it does seem kind of lonesome in this big house with half of the furniture all covered up, like ghosts. With everything ready in the trailer, I suppose we might as well. Let's go. Put some ashes over the remains of your fire, Jimmy, suggested Phil. We can let the log just smolder till morning. We shut all the windows and locked up Penny before we went on our ride. Jimmy and I will make sure the back door is locked and be with you in a minute. In a matter of minutes, all of them were in bed in the trailer, and they fell asleep at once. All of them, that is, except Penny. In spite of being exhausted, she found it hard to settle down. The quiet breathing of the others assured her that the rest would not notice her tossing and turning. From time to time, she looked at her wristwatch by the little flashlight, which was always under her pillow. Slowly, the time went by. Finally, she slipped out of bed, crept quietly over the rest to the back door, now propped open and screened. It was a chilly air that came through, and her warm robe was welcome. She wrapped it more tightly around herself and sat down on a small box. The big log house appeared tall and dark. Around it was the shrubbery, with some flowers and groups of trees, and the woods sighed about them with a rising breeze. Probably the lake was getting rougher. She hoped they could go out in the boat tomorrow. My, but it was lonesome here without any close neighbors. It would be fun in the winter when the lake froze over, and they'd have skiing and skating and maybe even ice boating. Penny jumped a little when she heard a sound in the bushes, and something shot across the open space, seeming to disappear at the house. A rabbit, most likely. It served her right to get scared. A person ought to be asleep at such a late hour. An owl began a mournful call. Eerie. Suddenly she thought of the lady that Marjorie claimed she had seen when she first went into the house. It made her feel strange to remember it now. Maybe Marjorie hadn't seen her. No one else had seen anything. Phil had said later that it might have been a reflection in a mirror or from one. There was a mirror in the study where Philip had taken Marjorie to show her the open window. Wait a minute, wasn't that on this side of the house? She hitched her seat over slightly to where she could see the oddly paned window that had been up a little, or one that she was pretty sure was the one. It was really too far away for her to see whether the boys had remembered to put the window down or not. Next, Penny rubbed her eyes and looked again. Had there been a flicker of light? How strange. A pinpoint, sort of blue, not like a flashlight. There it was again. She was sure this time. Of course, it probably was an occasional flare of flame from the log, though it looked as if Jimmy had covered every bit of fire up. She knew if she wakened the boys and told them about the light, they would say that she was crazy. Her feet were cold and she was going back to bed. Nonsense, she told herself. Just because Marjorie lets her imagination work overtime is no reason for me to start seeing things too. End of chapter 3.